today we're going to be doing something a little bit differently than we normally do. We're going to do our first just chatting stream, and I'm very excited for this one. Devon meticulously looking down and at his phone and hanging out. You don't need to be sorry, man. You're a busy guy. You got stuff you got to do.
Sam asked me if I want to play baseball. I said I'm streaming.
What would that be? That game he was playing yesterday? That like simulation baseball?
Yeah, well, that's an arcade game. Simulation would be like the show where it's like actually trying to be realistic, but that's like an arcadey kind of like backyard baseball game.
Okay. That game reminds me of Backyard Baseball that he was playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing that when I was extremely young on like my parents' computers, and I don't think I was very good at it. I feel like I was pretty horrendous. That was the time when I would play games like The Sims and like Roller Coaster Tycoon. Did you ever play a game like that?
Yeah, I played Roller Coaster Tycoon as a kid.
And like Zoo Tycoon.
I never played. I played The Sims. I was never super into it. I liked. I'm not big on sandbox games. I like having like an objective, but yeah, I mean, I just the arcade like simple games where it's like it's not trying to be anything crazy.
I think those games are super cool because you can adapt to different players' play styles. Like some people are obviously going to be very business oriented and they're going to want to be like money makers. Then there's going to be people who are playing those games like just to have fun and screw around, and you can just build parks that do goofy things like roller coasters that like kill people when they like go on the top, like just or like you can like trap people in places. Like you could just do goofy things. So it seems like it's very good at capturing a broad audience, and you can just play the game in so many different ways that I think it was definitely a successful type of game.
Yeah, Roller Coaster Tycoon is made by like one guy. That wasn't
Was
even
it?
made by. Yeah, it was literally just like one dude made that.
That's quite impressive.
Right?
I guess looking back at it, where the graphics might not have been that impressive.
Well, I mean, it's a game for like 2002, 3.
You know what? I think that's pretty impressive for like 2000 or whenever it came out.
Oh yeah.
This is not bad for being created by one dude.
They also had a thing where you could like be in the roller coaster and like watch like what it was like to be on the ride.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
it's pretty neat.
That's funny. Gosh, this brings back a lot of memories. Zoo Tycoon.
I don't think I played this one.
It's like the same thing, but with animals. It's like the Animal Kingdom in Disney World. It's like a theme park, but for animals. So let's go into those little ideas I brainstormed. Maybe you want to pick one of them and you want to talk about one of those items.
I mean, we could talk about like roguelikes. I mean, that's definitely a topic that I
Yes,
talk about a lot.
that was the that was the one I was most interested in, actually, into talking with you about. All right, so why don't you start by telling me some of the roguelike games that you prefer the most, or some of your favorites?
So Slaythespire is number one
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
I liked Gungeon when it came out. I like Nuclear Throne. I mean, Isaac was like the original roguelike game that kind of made the genre much more popular. I mean, I like them because I like the concept of like starting from scratch each time
Mm-hmm.
and then working within like a framework to get from beginning to end without like because it's like games like I don't know, the first game that comes to my mind is like Civilization, where it's like this huge undertaking. And personally, I've started dozens of Civilization games, and I've never actually finished one, and it's just because it's like, I mean, I'm kind of done. And like within the framework of Slay the Spire, where it's like, oh, there's only 75 cards per class, and there's only 100 relics or whatever, but like the amount of like variation, even within that framework, is just huge. And so it also is more clear that like I'm getting better at the game. I like games that don't have crazy amounts of content. I like games that you have some stuff, but it's much more about like using the resources that you have rather than like this enormous thing, this enormous undertaking.
Okay, so let me pause you real quick for a second. Just a few things. One, can you move your mic closer to your mouth?
Yeah. Is this better?
That is a lot better.
Okay.
Second, for anyone watching who doesn't know what a roguelike game is, in traditional games, you're playing kind of like a story from the start to the finish. Usually there's like um back when games first came out, a lot of them were like obviously a lot of the early ones were like just these little simple games. But when we started going into like like the early 2000s, a lot of games were like story based, and you go through like chapters or levels. And you Cowabunghole just subscribe to the channel. Look at that. I think that's Sam.
That is Sam, yeah.
Thank you, Sam. That means a lot. We appreciate the support. Um, Also, Sam, since you subbed, I will wear a hat of your choice for 5 minutes if you type either cowboy or sparkle in the chat. I'll wear one for you. You don't have to, but I will if you want me to. Anyway, um, a roguelike is almost kind of like you're playing a game within a game, like you're playing a little. Devin, you should correct me if I'm not explaining this incorrectly, because I've only played a couple. Is both an option? Sure, I'll wear both. It's almost like you're playing a shorter game within a game that you like, almost like you're leveling up within this sub game of a game, and you progress through it kind of until you die. In a lot of them, there's really no like way to win. You just keep playing to either get better, or sometimes you like unlock things in it. Maybe why don't you, Devin? Why don't you explain to me what you think it is?
I mean, so I'm on Wikipedia. So
Okay,
like,
you tell me.
roguelike is a subgenre of role-playing video games characterized by a dungeon crawl. Usually, dungeon crawl through procedurally generated levels, turn-based gameplay, tile-based graphics, and permanent death of the player character. So yeah, I mean, I would say most roguelikes are not unlimited. I think that's kind of something that like Nuclear Throne is kind of unique in, where you could just keep going.
Okay.
But it's here, let me go back to.
But you don't retain things that you earn.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You start over, and I think that's the key.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
Like the key thing. Yeah. There's no retention of items, coins, money.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that it's like I start over each time from nothing, and like it's a good starting point, like where it's like I feel like it's easier to experiment with things, because like if you are playing a game where like it's a campaign, or game like XCOM or something, where if somebody dies, they die, and that's just kind of it. Where if in a roguelike where it's an hour, like like very rarely is a roguelike more than an hour, and so like that it's just kind of like its own thing, and then once you're done, and you can move on to the next whatever you're doing next.
Yes, I definitely feel a good sense of accomplishment when I get better at a roguelike game. Like when I play it over and over and I get the mastery. I feel like although you don't retain items, you obviously retain experience, and that experience is very rewarding when you can apply it and like get better at it over time. And that's exactly how I felt when I played Gungeon. Just like and that was the first type of that style of game I had played, and I was pretty bad when I first played it. Like I couldn't get past the second floor, but then once I kept grinding it, I was obviously able to get a lot better. And I think that was very rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. And I will admit, like most people, they'll get to that point where they beat the final boss or whatever, or they will just get too frustrated. But like for me, it's like if the game is good, I'll just keep playing it. Like case in point, it's like Slay the Spire, where it's like 1,700 hours into that game. I mean, I'm kind of done with it at this point. I mean, I would I think that Slay the Spire is so good for streaming because like of the UI. Like for me, like Slay the Spire is so good because it was almost made with streaming in mind. Where
Hmm.
like everything it like tells you everything, like it gives you all the information. Because I really don't care about like stories in games. So like you know, I care much more about like the mechanics and like the actual gameplay rather than and then like the aesthetic and is more important than the story itself. So um, it's cool. Like Gungeon there isn't really lore in Gungeon. Like there's some, but like it's mainly just like everything's a gun, and then it's Slay the Spire, just like the art style, and then with the game, like I mean Isaac, probably the best example where like there's like poop items and like everything is just like weird and but yeah.
Definitely, I agree. And Sam brought up one other important facet of these types of games is the RNG component.
Hmm.
How you're not playing the same level design each time. I assume that's how it works in Isaac. I can only attest to Nuclear Throne and Gungeon because those are the only ones I've actually played. But I assume that I have played Slay the Spire, and like the randomness of the cards and the enemies and the paths, that adds like a whole cool dynamic, so you don't have the same experience twice. Like you would think you might get bored of these types of games after you play them a while, but because the experience is different every time, it's kind of like exciting,
I mean it's the
right?
same, but yeah, it's the same but it's different. Like I like with Slay the Spire, like every class has like 75 cards, and like that you've and at a certain point there is, I don't know how many enemies, maybe 40 enemies or something,
Well,
maybe
there's a
50,
there's a limit to the
but
randomness, but
there's a limit.
there's a,
Yeah.
but it's like a calculated randomness. Like there's only so many things you can encounter, but the frequency and the amount is gonna vary. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering in particular with Slay the Spire, what drew you to that game so much, because that one seems so much different than the other ones you played. Like Throne, Isaac, and Gungeon all were more dungeon crawly, and this one's more based on a card game. And you didn't seem like the kind of person who would be into card games, especially when I tried to encourage you to play stuff like Magic and whatnot. But you were more interested in but you became instantly interested in a game like this, but never got into like Hearthstone, never were into like Runeterra or any other card games, but this one in particular stood out to you. What
Well,
absorbed you about this one so
it's
much?
so balanced. I mean, it's just so balanced. Like, I mean, like, you know what game is good when it can kick your ass and you keep playing it. Um, like, I would say also, like, I mean, just the UI in the game and like just like the little things, everything they do right, where it's like the sounds and like it just tells you everything, so you don't have to like look up what items do. Like, they just built the wiki like right into the game. Um, like I love that it's like Math, the video game. Like, I love that, and also, I mean, like I will like, I mean, there's a streamer. His name is Jorbs, who I've watched so many hours of, and so like being able to like watch him and like, because I'm the kind of person where you should play Eve on, yeah, spread. Turkey tried to get me into that. Um, it seemed like a little, but that's also like, isn't that like pay to win? Also, that's the thing that drives me crazy about certain games where it'll be like Hearts. I would never get into Hearthstone only because of just like the pay to win thing. I like being able to buy a product and then I own it
But it's
instead
only
of
it's
having
only
to
pay to
like.
win to an extent though. Like you could have the best deck and stuff like Hearthstone, but you can still win even when
Right,
you.
but the fact that's even in the game is just like enough for me to just like not even want to keep playing like at all.
Okay, so you
um
don't want to have any additional investment but beyond getting the game.
yeah, I mean, I also just love how like there's not that many cards in Slay the Spire. There's like 300 cards. I mean, like there's 75 per class, and then like 50 colorless cards. It like they do the most with the least. I think of like the card games where it's like, I mean, how many cards are there in Hearthstone? There's
Probably a
probably
couple
thousands of
thousand. Yeah, a couple
yeah.
thousand
There's a couple
probably.
that, I mean, that was also what was my issue with Magic. It was just like there's too many cards.
Imagine just like
there are
20,
way there are way
25,000 maybe.
there are way too many cards in Magic for me to keep track of.
But
Um,
you can play formats that don't have access to as many of the cards. Like
you,
standard might only have access to like 1,500 cards maybe or less.
that's still crazy. I think slaythespire was 75 per class is perfect. Like having just that and
What
like
about Runeterra? Runeterra only has like a few hundred. I think it only has like 500.
that's still too many. I mean, like
What?
I mean, isn't that also like there's some element of paying to win,
But
right?
like when you don't have enough of a pool, doesn't it get stale after a while?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's the beauty of Slay the Spire is
Like
that like you only have these number of cards, but like it gets so complicated so quickly, um, that it's able to keep my interest even having like a small pool.
okay, but here's the main point I want to get to because this is the main thing that gets me about these roguelike games. And I do enjoy playing them and I do like putting hours into them and I do like grinding them, but they don't have any evolution beyond the base game. Like there's no adapting or evolving and the game doesn't like progress at all. Like you said, once you master it, then that's kind of it and there's no reason to ever play it again. Like I played 100 hours of Slay the Spire and like I could play it again, but at this point I know what I'm gonna get, and it's like gonna be the same thing. There's no new cards, no new character. They did release like one new character, but
Hmm.
not enough to make me excited to go back and play the game again.
Well, actually, that's what I like. I hate games with changing metas. Like, I don't like games where like you have to keep where it keeps changing. I like where it stay. I mean, it has changed. Like, Slay the Spire has definitely had updates where they like nerf cards or buff cards or whatever they did. But I like that it kind of stays the same. And also, like with Slay the Spire, like I mean, have you beaten Ascension 20?
I don't even know what that is.
So maybe you didn't play when Ascension was out. So Ascension, like it's these modifiers that make the game more difficult. And then there's 20 of them, and like each of them makes the game harder. And like when I tell you beating Ascension 20 was like the hardest thing I've ever done in a video game, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in a video game. Like it took hundreds and hundreds of tries to like beat the game on that difficulty. So if I had to play on Ascension Zero each time, I'd probably get kind of bored. I mean, I'm also like I said, like I'm after 1,700 hours, like my playing on my own is kind of done.
I guess, but
Um,
Ascension 20 is probably it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it just the game, but it's with a ton of like restrictors, and it just makes it harder for you to win? Like it makes probably enemies harder, it makes your cards less powerful, or like does it make you get less get less relics, or like does it restrict you in some way? Like isn't it the same? Wouldn't it just be the same core game, but just make it harder? Is it like
I
upping the
mean, kind
difficulty on
of.
a shooter game, like making the enemies have more health and like all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean the enemies have like more. It's more of buffing the enemies rather than nerfing yourself. Like the cards don't change, the relics don't
So it's the
change.
same game, it's just everything is 10 times harder. But it's still
Basically,
the same experience, it's just more miserable.
yeah.
That's what I wouldn't be excited about going back to play the same game but it just be 10 times harder. That's
Interesting.
not
Yeah,
an update that is exciting for me.
I mean, I would say that. I mean, like I said, like the biggest thing now is just like playing games by myself is like it's not as intriguing to me. If I was streaming, that would be like one thing where it's like, or if you were playing and I was like, oh, you should. I mean, especially if it's still like a challenge. But like at this point, I'm much more interested in multiplayer games.
Mhm.
Um, I would say like Nidhogg 2 is like it's definitely not a roguelike, but it has like roguelike elements where you like start like from the same place each time, and then um you like there's no procedural generation, but like you're going up against a person where you're on the same level. And that's the thing that I love so much is that's like, in a game like I guess a game like Call of Duty where like everyone has like their class and everyone just has their own thing. There's a mode in Call of Duty called Gunfight Blueprints
Mhm.
where it's basically search and destroy, but you start with like everyone starts with the same class, I really like where it's like everyone starts with the same, where like everyone's on like an equal playing field, and there's no. That's what just gets me about like games like Hearthstone, where it's like I know it's pay to win to a certain extent, but like having any element of pay to win is just like I don't know. I like having the whole game, and that's why like I mean you kind of said it like earlier where it's like there's no new content. Like that's I like that. I mean I prefer just like having it stay the same forever and like being able to just master it rather than it keep changing. That's what I like. Also, I mean, a perfect example of that is like Dota or like League of Legends. It's like how do you guys like know like keep up with all the changes that happen like on a like monthly or what however often it changes.
Are you asking me that, or
I
is
mean
it just part of your?
yeah, it's just more of a rhetorical question.
Okay.
um I don't think you play like I think you played League in the past, right? But you don't really play it anymore.
Yeah, I don't play it anymore.
Yeah.
You keep up with it because you keep playing it, and when you play it, you just are and you're involved in the community. You just kind of like adapt to new things as they come out. That's really it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's exciting because it keeps you invested in the same game, so you don't have to keep transitioning between games. It's like it almost helps you. It's like you can continue to build your mastery at something without like always switching between different games, I guess. I guess you can still do that in roguelikes. You could technically obviously keep building your mastery. I guess it just gets less exciting for me as you grind harder. But if you're going to grind a game that's always changing, then you can just literally grind it forever and not get bored because it'll always have new content.
Yeah, I mean it depends on the game, right? Like for me, like a game like Gungeon just didn't really grab. Like I mean, after like 100 or however many hours I spent, like I
Yeah.
you may even have more hours in Gungeon than I do. Probably
I
not
think I
because I
have
played with.
I think I only have 200.
Yeah, I mean like it got to the point where like the gameplay itself is the same, but like when you're playing Slay the Spire and like you are on very high ascension and like you have a decision, like I mean one wrong card pick and you will lose. Like it is that punishing.
Slay the Spire just started to take so long though too.
It
Like,
does.
well, especially when you want to play and get better, you have to take longer to make your decisions. And because you have unlimited time to make the decisions, you could just sit there for as long as you need and you could literally calculate everything perfectly, but it would just take forever to do. Like it would take so long. It's like, and it would frustrate me. I would just like sometimes I would just throw things out because I didn't want to like wait around and calculate everything. I would sometimes if it was like a boss, but like I would have like these 2 hour runs, and I'd be like, how did that take 2 hours to do the whole thing? Because I
Yeah.
spent so long on each of my decisions, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the part of the game. Well, I mean like I was okay taking it that long when I was like going at the ascension levels. And like getting to ascension 20. Like I said, like ascension 20, beating ascension 20 was like I was like, I don't care how long it takes. I'm gonna beat I'm gonna beat this. And
Mm-hmm.
like and the I loved that I had to play perfect, and so I didn't mind taking that long to make decisions just because I knew the difficulty of like what I was actually doing and like how difficult that was.
Okay.
Um, I mean, but then like that's the kind of thing where I did do it once, and I was like, I don't want to do that again. I beat Ascension 20. I didn't even beat Ascension 20 with every character. I beat it with the first two, and then I was like, that's enough. That's enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Realistically, how much more do you think you could play Slay the Spire before you'd never want to play it again? Like, how many more hours do you think you could put into that game and be like and be having a good time?
well, at this point, none. But there's
How many hours do you have in that game? Like
1700,
300? Okay, I don't know
1700.
why I said 3. 1700.
I mean, but no, but there's a caveat to that. Like, I don't want to play that game by myself. I
That's
wouldn't. I mean,
so
like,
many
I've
hours.
tried. I've like booted it up to play on my own, and I'll get like halfway through, and I'll be like, I don't care. But like, I at this point with that game, like, I would love to like. I don't want to say teach people, but just like I love like what I remember when like I went up to like Max's place in Connecticut, like you know, like like very early this year, and we were playing, and like he was playing, but I was like kind of there to be his like like he was asking me questions if he had a question. Like it'd be like, but he was still playing, but I was still like there to be like, oh, you should pick this or pick that. But like I would wait till like he made the decision on his own, and then I would be like, oh, you should definitely pick this because XYZ. And so I still love the game from like the perspective of, I don't want to say teaching necessarily, but like having other people play it, because I just do think it's just like the, like from a balance perspective, from like an actual like how well the, I think it's the, and like it's definitely not the most crazy engaging gameplay, but from like a balance perspective of like how well the cards work with one another and the relics, like I think it is the most balanced, certainly the most balanced roguelike that's come out. Because like the problem with a lot of roguelikes, I mean, I would say like Isaac's a good example, is that you kind of get to a cruising altitude where it's like you just get like Polyphemus Mom's knife and then you just run through the rest of the game.
That was with which
But
game? With Isaac?
with Isaac,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, or I mean, like, and then with Gungeon, it's so dependent on like if you get ammo drops and stuff. But with Slay the Spire, it's like you're like the decision, like the actual decisions you make and like the balance of the game is just like you're. I mean, if you're playing on the right difficulty, you're never gonna be a time where you just cruising. Because if you cruise and you make a mistake, you're gonna lose. Like you will.
Okay.
Um,
So similar to this idea of what you said with like teaching, being like playing with other people, were you ever involved in any like communities surrounding any of these games? Like I know you said you watched someone play on Twitch. Were you ever like active in like a Twitch channel or like a Discord server or like a Reddit, or like did you ever like talk with other people about the game? And I asked this because with the amount of hours that you've spent in the game, you could probably be like an authority in this game. Like people would like know that you know what you're talking about, I guess.
I mean, I've been active on like Jorbs' stream before. Like, I've donated to his stream. Like, he knows who I am. I mean, I know he
Is that like
knows
a
my username.
big streamer in the
He's
he's like
the
the
Slay the
Slay?
Spire streamer. He's the Slay the Spire
Is he
streamer.
big? What's his name? Zor?
Jorbs,
Jorbs?
Jorbs.
JRBS. Okay.
So he has a Twitch. He also has a YouTube channel. Um, how many? I mean, he had definitely
Yeah,
has over 10.
he's pretty big. He seems
Yeah,
like he's pretty big.
he's like the Slay the Spire streamer.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
And so like I've donated to him before, like I've been on his like YouTube video, like he posts his YouTube videos, like the good runs onto his YouTube channel, and so like I've been in a couple of those like with messages or something.
Okay.
Um but no, not really. I mean I'll visit the subreddits and stuff. Um but like not like super active in terms of that.
Mhm. I actually just want to see how big the category is in general. Okay. Right now it's got about 1,000 viewers in the category, but I assume when he streams, there's probably another like. I mean, does he get like 1,000 viewers or something? How many viewers do you think he would get on average?
I'd say probably a little bit more than that.
Like,
It's over a
like
thousand.
12 to 1500.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I'm not exactly sure, but like I mean he definitely is doing, pretty well.
that's pretty good at for a game like this, I would think. It's not like a
Yeah, I mean
super popular game.
he's definitely the biggest streamer.
Yeah.
Um, like with Slay the Spire.
Yeah. Like the top streamer has 808 viewers right now, and the next most is 24, which is like a huge delta. And then it goes down 13.7. So like this is definitely a category that's like prime for visibility. But
Hmm.
anyway, yeah. Just that was just for me to note. Just interesting.
Yeah, I got to the point where I was just like I said. I feel like you can get with that with any game, right? Like you just like get to the point where you're like, I've played enough of this. Um,
I think yes, but I also think it's easier for some games than other games. Right? Like there are people who have played a certain game like League like their entire career and they still play and they're not necessarily bored of it,
mhm.
right? Or like Minecraft. I'm trying to think of games that there's always new stuff you can do. There's like always new characters coming out or always new maps or new whatever. There's a lot of games like that that you can just get invested into and just continue to play. A lot of MOBAs are like that, like World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft's probably the best example of that. It's it's amazing to me that World of Warcraft, the game that came out in like the late 90s or something, is still like the premier or marketed like the premier or the MMO that like everyone knows. Like if you
Hmm.
ask a non-gamer what World of Warcraft is, everyone knows what World of Warcraft is. It's like the meme like MMO game that people just know. You know what I'm saying? And it's survived for so long
Yeah,
because of all this content that keeps getting released for it.
it's crazy. I mean, I'm very surprised it's still as big as it is.
Right? And there are people who have built their careers off WoW who like started as WoW gamers and now they're like big in gaming from
I mean,
WoW.
it just seems so overwhelming. Like it just seems like I remember Zach was playing like is playing The Witcher, and like he showed me like the map for that game, and I'm like, how, like, dude, I would just not play. Like I just and like I know I have 1,700 hours in Slay the Spire, and so that sounds kind of weird, but like it's almost easier for me to like do it in bite-sized chunks. And but I also said like at the beginning, like I don't really care about stories in games. I just like to. I just want to play. I just want to. I don't. I just want like the mechanics and the game to work. I'm not really somebody who cares about like storylines and stuff.
Right.
So
And
I can understand somebody who is interested in more in that would get a kick out of World of Warcraft and The Witcher more than somebody like me.
right. It's almost a little bit intimidating to play those open world games because there's so much to
Oh yeah.
do and it feels like you can just get lost in it and sometimes I don't actually like that. I kind of agree with you. That's why I could never beat games like Skyrim. Like I would go into it and then I would try and play the story, but I would get distracted and just like wind up doing random things and then I never knew what my objective was anymore and I would like kind of just wander and I it was just intimidating. There's just so much stuff to do. I don't know if I could pick up a game like Witcher either.
Yeah.
And I could never get super invested into any of those MMOs. I think the only one I ever played was like RuneScape, just because it was dumb and easy, like you know. But I played WoW once, like for a day, and I didn't get into it. I tried a couple other ones, I think, but I just never really was able to do it.
It would certainly be a lot easier if I was playing with somebody, because I'm definitely at the point where,
Yeah,
especially after so much Slay the Spire, where it's like I don't really want to play games by myself. Like if I'm gonna be if I'm on my own and I have like you know I should probably just get something done and wait until somebody else is like free and wants to play. Because
is
like
that
I
why
said
you?
with
Sorry,
no, go ahead, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, is that why you switched to Nidhogg?
I mean, I don't know if I'd like switch to Nidhogg. I mean, that's not really that's more of just like an arcadey kind of game. But like that's certainly why I'm kind of done with Slay the Spire. Like in the capacity that I was playing before. Um, I'm definitely more interested in playing games with other people. Like I mean, like I played Super Mega Baseball like like last night, and I was just like, I'd just rather wait till like Sam or Andrew is online and wants to play with me,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just play against the computer. Um, I would also like be down to play like do you like shooters?
Yeah, I like Valorant a lot.
Okay,
I'm actually going to be playing some Valorant this weekend on stream. So
okay.
I am yeah, Valorant has been my new that's a whole nother discussion. I don't want to dive too deep into that unless you want to switch topics.
Yeah, no,
But
we could talk about shooters. I mean, like like I'm not crazy about Valorant. I do like it. I mean, I definitely would play it, but again, it's the same thing. I'd rather play with a bunch of people, rather than like buy something by myself.
okay, so I want to
Um,
pause for a second. I do want to transition, but I want to ask one more thing about the roguelike stuff while we're talking about it.
mhm.
The the game that the game what was that game that Zach shared with us? A new one that is in early access, right? A
Oh,
new
Hades.
Hades. So would a game like Hades or another game like that entice you to get back into like another? roguelike game? Like would you play or like Grifflands? I feel like you would love Grifflands. Would you like invest into one of like a new game like that at this point? Or are you beat from all the ones you played in the past?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of done with roguelikes for right now. I've seen. I mean, Hades has been around for a while. I mean,
Well, it
I've
came out
you know,
last year, right? It's
well,
not that long
yeah,
ago.
but no, but it can't. No, but it was in early access before, and now it.
Yeah, Sam said it, Hades.
Yeah, I mean, I think they actually released the actual game now, but like,
Mhm.
I don't know. The gameplay didn't look like something too crazy for me.
Okay.
Um,
All right, then that's a great answer. Shooters. Before I get your thoughts, before Valorant, I never really played shooter games. I was garbage at shooters. When I was younger, I played Call of Duty and Halo with my friends on Xbox 360. I was always the worst out of my friend group. I never played Xbox Live with any of them. I never played like any of the online. I never played CS:GO or any of those like tactical shooters. Um, but like when Valorant came out uh, earlier this year, I guess, or late last year, within the past year, the game just looked so fun, and I really wanted to like get into shooters. So I played it, and I was so bad, but I really wanted to be committed to playing a shooter game. A, because I always wanted to be good at shooters, and B, because it just looked like such a fun game. And I grinded for several months and like practiced my aim, practiced my communication, practiced my calls, practiced my skills, and I actually got to a point where I'm like actually not I'm not great, but I'm not like garbage like I was when I first started, and it feels really good to finally have gotten to a point where I'm actually okay at a shooter game for like basically the first time in my life. And I think that the game just in itself, Valorant, also aside from my personal experience, is also just a super cool game, and I think it's very well designed, and I think it's a game that's gonna last for a long time, especially in the esports scene. Thoughts?
um, I like Valorant. I I I'm not crazy about the actual mechanics of the shooting, which kind of takes away a lot of my um enjoyment of the game. I'm also not somebody who's crazy about like classes, like where you have like different abilities for each class. Like that kind of goes back to the roguelike thing where it's like everyone's kind of on their own, has their own thing. Um where I think it's better everyone just starts like with the same
More like
thing.
CS:GO.
Yeah, and also I mean like the shooting just feels weird to me in Valorant. Like it feels like I feel like I can't really aim that well sometimes. Like I feel like my shots don't register as well as they could. I mean, I still play Call of Duty. Like I mean, we have it like me, Andrew, and Zach were playing a lot like a couple months ago, and we're definitely not playing as much now. But like I definitely would like to get um the next Call of Duty, the Black Ops Cold War that's coming out in
Mm-hmm.
a couple months. Um, I I mean, I played them so much as like a kid. I played so much Modern Warfare 2, man. I played so much of that game, but again, it's like the same thing where it's like I don't want to play games like that by myself. I need to be
Yep.
playing with somebody else, or it's like really hard for me to actually get enjoyment out of that.
I agree. I much prefer to play with friends than to play solo. Like I guess it's different sometimes. Like there are occasions when I will like enjoy playing a game by myself. Um, but I definitely think the experience of playing with someone else is like part of the fun of playing games. So I agree with
Mm-hmm.
you. Yeah. And I've definitely v- tried to transform recently into games that are more like multiplayer-esque. So like playing games like Valorant, playing like Among Us, playing Fall Guys, playing uh, yeah, games that you can play with other people. Like I just played Minecraft for the first time. I'm trying to play like
Mm-hmm.
more cooperative games rather than playing like Enter the Gungeon and Slay the Spire. I was playing like I had a phase where I was playing They Are Billions a lot, which was super fun, but it was like it was a big investment. It was like it was too solo-y and too like the games like should take 8 hours to play like a game. Like um games like I played like the Darkest Dungeon, but I'm trying to like transform into like more multiplayer games. I still do like some of those games as well, but I want to like diversify my portfolio a little bit more.
My portfolio.
Yeah, and like play more games with friends. Like I just got Pumble Party to play with you guys,
That's a good one.
and I'm very happy with that one. If
Yeah,
Sam's
that's a
if
good one.
Sam's still here, he'll be happy
Yeah, we
that
played
we
that
like it.
we played that a couple days ago.
I
Yeah, I love the party games. I mean, like I am not. I mean, like Fall Guys is not a game that really appeals to me personally. Like I don't own it. I don't really have any interest in buying it, but I am really happy that a game like that gets as popular as it does so quickly. Where it's like, it's goofy. It doesn't really take itself too seriously. It's meant to be played with friends.
hmm
There's a very low barrier to entry to play a game like that. So like I'm all for games like that are made to be played with other people, and you don't have to like, because a game like games like League, like I don't know how new people will ever play that, how new people play that game, because it's just like there's
Well,
no like.
when you play ranked, you play against other people in your skill level. So you're not playing against like diamond players when you first start playing. You're playing against people at your same skill level. So honestly, I do think games like those are sort of welcoming to new players. And there's also
Almost.
and there's also casual game modes you can play that people don't play that are competitive.
I remember Sam was playing that one mode
Pummel
when I
parties,
was.
poggers.
Yeah, so like when I first got to RIT when I was a freshman, I don't think they have this game type anymore, but it was just one lane. Like that's cool. I like that.
The league in
Um,
league, yeah, they
in
have
League,
that. It's called
yeah.
ARAM. They have
I
that.
ram, yeah.
Yeah, I'll
They
like
they do.
if I have 5 friends and we don't like really have any of the same games, like if I have a few friends online and we don't really, everyone always owns League. So if we're like just hanging out, we'll maybe play like one game of ARAM or something. I haven't
Mhm.
done that in a while, but like that would be like the go-to move. Is just like play a game of ARAM for fun to do something together. ARAM is super fun.
Yeah.
It's like just casual League, like the most casual it can possibly be.
Like if I was gonna play League, I'd probably want to play that, but I don't know. That community is something else, though.
Yeah, the community is the reason I quit the game. It actually is
Yeah.
the entire reason I quit. It's just way too toxic, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because the game is a lot of fun, but the people who play it are not. So, uh, that was the end of League after like I played 2 years pretty hard. Too many salty people, too many toxic people.
That's the thing. It's a game, right? Like at the end of the day, it's still like a game. Like, and if you're gonna get that mad over like a game, like there's no point.
Right.
There's just no point in doing that.
So I've had it a little bit in Valorant, but not nearly as much as games like League.
Well,
It happens occasionally.
Valorant's cool. Valorant's kind of unique in that it kind of encourages you to like talk to people and be cooperative.
Yeah.
Um, you're always gonna have people who are salty and people who are just playing like idiots, but
Yeah. But the ratio has not been the same as League. It was like every game, it was always salty people. Like there was no games when I was just like having fun. It was every game. It was like a test of my will to not like rage at my computer. All these people. But at Valorant, it's like maybe one in every 10 games I have one person that's like somewhat salty. But meanwhile in League, it's people were raging on their keyboards every single game, and it's multiple people. It was like two people would gang up on someone else, and like someone else would gang up on them, and it would just be like the whole chat would just be spammed with arguments all the time. It was so dumb.
classic.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's not like that anymore. I have no idea, but
I mean, it's probably the same.
and the big reason why I liked Magic so much was because the community was not, with my experience, the community has not been very toxic because when you're playing with people face to face, you can't really be as toxic to them because you're like in person with them. And if you're toxic, you're like no one wants to be your friend. Like when you're online, you're behind your alias and no one knows who you are. It doesn't matter how toxic you are. At the end of the day, maybe you'll get reported, but that's it. No one's gonna like know who you really are, right? Or like isolate you or whatever. But in real life, you can't really do that. So games like physical games always had a good community.
You have a topic here: sports versus video games. What was that? What was that topic?
I don't know. It was kind of open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Um, do you consider video games a sport? And I want you to be a yes or no so I can argue the opposite point. I will take the opposite stance of you no matter which one you choose. to make it more interesting. Not that I'll necessarily believe one or the other, but
I mean, no.
okay, so you're gonna go with no.
I'm gonna say no. I mean, like,
Okay.
I can see an argument for them
Let's say you say no. Why? What would encourage you to believe
because
that?
you're not. It's weird because if you just check the boxes off about like what defines like an athlete, like being in physical shape to do that,
Mm-hmm.
or that level of competition, it certainly has the same level of competitiveness.
Okay.
Um, and like the where it's like, you know, even if you're like one of the worst people on the stage, you're still better than 99.99% of people. But I just when I think of a sport, like I just think of you have to be doing something physical. Like there has to be some kind of like I need to be able to I need to be able to physically and it's weird because then you have stuff like golf, right?
That's what
Because
I was gonna. That's exactly what I was gonna ask
golf is
about.
obviously a sport. Golf is definitely a
Okay. So
sport.
you're saying so golf is a
A
sport.
sport.
Okay, and bowling
Golf
is a
is a
sport.
sport.
What about croquet? Is that a sport?
Which one is that?
It's where
What
you
is
hit
that?
the little ball with the through the little arcs. There's like little arcs set up on grass, and you like hit the ball
Oh
with the
right.
croquet stick.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
Similar to golf, but it's like putting, but like a bigger ball.
Yeah, I would say so.
What about throwing
I mean, but
horseshoes?
it's
Like,
different. Yeah, I mean it is, but like the difference is like I mean I think there's like technically like I forgot the exact wording, but something like a sprint is a competition. Something like golf is a competition because I can't you can't play def. Oh hey Sophie. Um, like golf is a competition because I can't stop you. Like when I think of a sport, I think of basketball, football, baseball, soccer, where I can actually play defense
so
rather than.
okay.
And I guess that's kind of independent of whether or not
But there are
esports is an
games where you can
actual
do
sport.
that. There are games when you can play defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just needs a different word.
What about hot dog eating? Is that a sport?
No, I mean, like, but
No.
no, I mean, like, I mean, you can, I mean,
So what is it?
whether or not something is a sport is less important than like again, like I was saying, like, can I stop you? Like, can I knock the hot dog out of your hand? Like,
No.
right,
So
exactly.
then you think that's not a sport?
No, it is. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's I don't know. Like, at that point, it becomes about like the word choice, I guess, rather more than than like something else. Let's see. Is golf a sport? Golf is a legitimate sport because it's highly competitive. So what is like sports? All includes all forms of competitive physical activity or games, which through casual organized participation, at least in part, aim to use, maintain, or improve physical ability and skills while providing enjoyment to participants and in some cases, entertainment for spectators.
So I think
Sports.
that it's what I think is that it's very hard to define exactly what you were struggling with defining.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
easy to know for sure because of how the word sport is defined. And the word sport was defined before video games was a thing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really take into account whether or not a video game would count as a sport. But it doesn't necessarily not count as a sport. And if you loosely define it, obviously, technically, you are physically moving your hands and stuff. I don't know what would count as physical exertion. Like, they didn't define really what requisites the minimum amount of physical exertion required to be a sport, I guess. Um, but what I'm reading is that an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. So I think parts of this refer to gaming. Gaming involves skill. Gaming does involve an individual or a team competing against others in some scenarios, and it does involve entertaining others in many scenarios. The only thing that's, I think, in question is involving the physical exertion. But I think you can debunk that in that there are games that don't really involve much physical exertion that many people can agree is a sport, such as things like golf and croquet or horseshoes or bowling. You're obviously still physically exerting, but the amount in comparison to things like football or other things is not as nearly as much. And I feel like since the degree is at such a drop off for those types of sports, I feel like you're only dropping off a little bit more when you get to games, and maybe it should still be classified as a sport. Am I
Yeah,
100%? Maybe not, but
I mean,
that's
like
how
I
I
said,
feel.
I just think there should be a different word because it's where it's like, I
That's why
mean,
it's
golf,
called
like,
a game,
yeah,
like a
right,
game.
exactly. Where it's just like
Or
if I can't
e-sport.
play defense, like,
E-sport is what they came as what's broadly used now, right?
yeah, yeah, right,
E-sport. You
exactly,
would say it's
exactly,
an e-sport, an electronic
exactly.
sport, and I think that's fair.
I think that's fair too.
Yeah, because it is a sport, but it's a sport that's defined a different way, right? It's defined as an electronic sport. I think that's totally fair because that just eliminates the gray area entirely because it's anything that kind of uses technology to to present the experience of the sport basically. Like it's a sport that's presented through technology almost.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, it just comes down to like words. I mean, like it's, you know, I'm not super into competitive gaming. Um, I mean, that also has a lot to do with the kind of games that I like. Um, but I mean, good for those guys. For I mean, if you can make money, make a living doing that, then go for it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's only going to get bigger. I mean, who was I? I was talking. Kyle said something about this. It's like possible that like sports has peaked, because of like COVID, where it's like I mean, there's no ticket sales.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's gonna you know a lot of I mean, this is gonna have a very like this whole thing is gonna have a very lasting economic impact on like um I mean also it's like think about people who are in college right now who are not gonna play, and then it's just it goes because it goes through the whole thing, right? Like when you think about like the I mean, I guess like I'll use the word health of a sport. Like, you know, that's why like when I think about like 40 years from now, I think that the NBA will eventually be bigger than the NFL.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of that has to do with just the nature of the game, right? Where like I think people are going to be less and less likely to play football because of the. I mean, it's not going to go. It's not going anywhere. I mean, like it's not going to be. It's not like none of these leagues are ever going to go under because they just make too much money. But like, I just think that like the actual like the if you think about like you have the NFL and then you have college and then high school and then middle school, and I just see like just that whole structure being just so like it's in trouble at every level. I mean, like I said, it's not going anywhere, but it's gonna. I mean, it's also like even if everything were to go back to the way it was within a year, you're
Mhm.
still gonna have to. There's still gonna have lasting implications of like the financial loss and just the loss of talent and et cetera, et cetera. And like I could see esports. I mean, esports is getting. I mean, it's definitely has a very very long way to go. Um, but I mean, it's also like think about like people who are like I mean, I could totally see like kids now like who are 10, 11 care more about TSM than the Baltimore Orioles or whatever. Like
Yeah.
um
I think that esports, a couple of things you said were great. A, it will last through the impact of COVID, and not only will it last, but it will grow because of the impact of COVID, while other sports won't be able to grow. And B, what you just said at the end about how kids might are probably even more enticed to um, become a part of or want to get involved in esports over regular sports, especially because esports don't discriminate based on what shape you're in, how tall you are, how like physically capable you are, I guess. You're not going to not be able to play esports because you didn't make the cut for the team because you weren't like tall enough to play basketball, right?
right.
That's just not a thing. You have just as much of a chance as someone else to be able to participate It's really a reflection of your skill. And sports is too, obviously. Sports is also definitely a reflection of your skill, but there are certain genetics that might make you more fit to be able to participate. I would think. Um, and there's more limitations, and it's hard sometimes to change your body enough to become the requisite shape that you would need to be to play a sport professionally.
Hmm.
And I think it's easier. Not that it's easy to play esports by any means, but it's probably more accessible. It would be the right word to anyone.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I would
mean,
think.
you like if you're gonna play sport, you need a hoop or a field or whatever, and then like I feel like everyone has a computer already. Uh, like
Yeah,
nobody doesn't have a computer.
yeah.
Um,
It is expensive to get sometimes the computer that is necessary to play at a pro level, but when you're
yeah.
starting off, you obviously don't need that.
Hmm.
Sam says height is one thing, but top esports players are almost always in good shape. I
I
believe
mean,
that,
you do need to
but
have good mental fitness.
I
Like I would say somebody who's in shape will have an advantage over somebody who's unhealthy.
yes, I think Sam's correct. I think you're in good shape though because you care about your health in general, and you just want to be. I feel like a lot of the players have good sleep schedules or they're well rested and they just eat well because it promotes good mental and cognitive performance. They're not like jacked or buff or like insanely ripped, right? But they're like healthy, if that makes sense. I think that's what um, Sam mean. I assume, but I think that's the case though. I think a lot of them are just like healthy because it's good for their brain to be healthy. But none of them are like linebacker size, right?
Yeah,
Some
probably is
some
probably a disadvantage.
yeah, some of them
Truthfully.
might be, but like there's no need to be unless you just want to be like that, which is totally fine. Yeah, I think a lot of the coaches of top players just encourage them to stay healthy to just keep their brain as best as heightened as possible.
Yeah, I mean, despite what people think, like running on like Doritos and Monster Energy is probably not like gonna keep you in to the top shape.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't think so.
I think we talked. Well, I mean, I'm looking at this list of things that you have. Like, I mean, I love Among Us. That is a great game. I really do like that game. Um,
Yes.
the psychology aspect of it. And then they said that they're making a second one. They're gonna make Among Us 2, so that'll come out at some point.
Yes. Sam, I do agree with you by the way. That the perception of sorry Devin. I just want to
No,
say
you're
that
good.
before we transition, yes, the perception of an esports player is some big like grimy dude like living in their parents' basement, and that's definitely not the case anymore. Not that it necessarily even ever was, but
Well,
it's
it's usually
definitely
kid. I mean, it's usually people who are I think top esports players are usually 16, 17, 18. Like just because that's when the reflexes are the best.
yeah. They're
Like
young.
you very rarely have a 30-year-old professional esports player.
Yeah, and they're
I mean,
usually
that's also probably because they didn't. I mean, just because of the times, it's probably just. I mean, I'm sure it has something to do with the reaction, but like, I just think when you grow up with that, it's easier.
Among Us. This is very interesting game to talk about because it's kind of unlike, not that it's unlike other games, but it's unlike other popular games that have came out. So there's always been games like Mafia and Werewolf, like games like that are. Do you know any of these games, Devin? Or am I just blabbering nonsense to you right now?
No, I played as kids. I
You
don't.
know,
It's been a while. I don't remember them, but
that's fine. You know what
I
I'm
kind of
talking about.
remember them. Oh, is that the game where you like do something and then you have to like figure out like the person like everyone's following somebody?
Kind of, so Mafia, you're like assigned a role. You play in person a lot. You could play it online too, but it was originally I think designed before computers. Like you play in person, and you each get dealt like a card, and the card has your role on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like a couple people are like in the mafia, and like some people are like the villagers. And there's different styles of this. I played like a medieval times version where there's like a Merlin and like a sorcerer and like a witch. Like there's different roles, and there's like evil people trying to take down the good people basically. And the good people have to use diplomacy and like their political intuition and stuff to like try and figure out who the good and bad people are. And games like that have actually existed for a long time, but this is the first time that I think that a game has been transitioned to also have like not only that that politics aspect to it, but also an actual gameplay aspect to it. To my knowledge, this is the first time a game's done something like that, and it's not just like a game that people just like will play once in a while, like with their friends. This is a game that's actually like blown up in a lot of places, like all over people's streams and like all over the internet. This is a game that's like been very popular now. People will just like play all the time, and I think it's just impressive that such a simple concept performed so well in mainstream gaming.
I mean, that's the way to go, man. I love games that are just like simple and like easy to pick up, and that like there's a low skill floor, but there's a high ceiling. Like you could do some crazy. I've seen some. I've been watching some like Among Us like YouTube videos, and it's like some of the things you could do are crazy. Like the one thing this guy did was he cut the like the lights or cut something, and everyone was in electrical, and there was like 5 people stacked on top of each other.
You kill one
and
of
then
them?
he killed one of them, and you can't tell which one it was. I was like, dude, that's awesome.
Yep. I did that once. I don't think you were playing with us though.
Yeah.
It was great, and no one knew it was me.
Yeah, and then you can like throw if there's 2 imposters, you could throw one of them under the bus and then like still win because it's great. There's like that's what I was kind of saying about Slay the Spire, where it's like it's simple, but like it starts to get very complicated very fast with the amount of things that you can do and stuff like that.
You flex like a different muscle that you don't normally exercise, because no other games really put pressure on that type of muscle. And you can tell, I can tell the people who know what they're doing and the people who don't know what they're doing. Like I can see the delta, and I can be like, this person knows how to play this game, like with the way they're acting and the way they're talking, versus the people who just like don't know what they're doing. And it's like it's just cool to see that, I guess, and to see people playing a game a way they're not used to. And like you said, the game's so simple and so easy for anyone to just play. You don't have to necessarily be good or bad to get a win. Like you get to have fun with your friends. It's great. It's a great game.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. I mean, I like having a rotation of games where it's like I don't have to. Like games like I feel like games like League, if you really want to be good, you have to like keep playing like a lot.
Yeah, Among Us has really been a good one to add to the mix. There really hasn't been a game I've been excited to play with that many people prior to this. Like usually, I guess when we would have a big group, we play like Tabletop Simulator. We play like some random, like we play like Uno or something. But now, having access to Among Us is like a game changer. Like it's really cool. String Daddy says Nick doesn't trust me in Among Us. Yeah, that's true. I see. Like that's what I mean. Like when you start playing with players who are so good, who are trying to get better at the game, like Stringer, it's hard to trust them even when they're innocent because of how well they play when they're not innocent, if that makes sense. And sometimes it's difficult to tell the difference. You know what I mean. Especially when you've been bamboozled by someone like multiple times.
Yeah.
And then when they're an innocent player, it's you just don't you can't trust them because of how well they hoodwinked you. So it's just such an interesting game with so many different dynamics, and definitely a great. It definitely has great replayability.
Yeah, I love the psychology like aspect of it, where you're like trying to convince somebody that like you. I mean, I'm glad it's taken off in the way that it has.
Yeah. It's great for content. Like, it's fun to watch people play it. It's great to play with people. It's just got everything. Like, you play with friends. It's good content to watch. It's funny. You get to hang out with your friends. Like, and it's easy. Like, what more? And like, if you have someone new who like doesn't know what they're doing, it's not a problem.
Tabletop is kind of unique in that like that's like a billion games. That's like a billion different games you could play.
Hmm.
Very happy to have like Sam like making all like the mods and stuff and making things actually work.
Yeah, tabletop's
um,
been good. That game's been around for a long time. I never really used it to its maximum potential. Like I always had it, but never really played it. I think actually I got it shared via my brother because we Steam share, so that's how I got it. But I just never really used it. But getting to play like all these games like Catan and stuff, and, like Synquo, like there's so many games you can play on it,
mhm.
which is pretty cool. We played like Texas Hold'em. We played that stock game. There's just so much you can do on it. I love the versatility. You can play Magic the Gathering on there.
I mean, the other cool thing with tabletop is like if you can actually like just make everything so streamlined where you like it's almost better to be playing on tabletop than like real life. Like a game like Catan where like you have to keep track of the points. Just like, oh, how many points do I have? And then but it'll just tell you like yep,
Mm,
it'll just tell you like
yeah, there's nothing you need to calculate for.
yeah. I do want to play Clank. Did you play Clank? Play that?
We talking Ratchet and Clank? What's
No,
Clank?
like it's kind of like it's like a rogue. It's almost like a Slay the Spire game. Where you like build your deck and then you try and go as deep into this cave as you can, and you like get stuff, and then you make your way back to the top. I mean, it's cool, and then there's like a dragon and stuff. It's cool. I'm a fan. Definitely, definitely. I'll definitely love to play that again because that was a ton of fun.
Is it single player?
No, it's multiplayer. It's like
Wait.
it's a board game.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I have heard of it. I thought you were talking about a video game for some reason. I don't know why. But now that you say the board game Clank, I've
Hmm.
seen it in like a comic book shop, I think. I've never played it, but I would play it if someone had it. Is it, you said that's on tabletop?
It's on. Yes, Sam has it on tabletop. Sam like set up the thing on tabletop,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's very Slay the Spire esque, like where you
Like
like
draft a
have
deck.
yeah you're drafting a deck, and then you're like you draw a certain number of cards and stuff, and
Oh, I'm
it's
into
cool.
that. I'm
Yeah,
into that.
I'm a fan.
Did we ever play Netrunner together? I think we did once.
Which one was that? What's
It's the one
Netrunner?
where there's a hacker and there's a corporation.
Oh, I played that with you.
That
Yeah,
game is
that
that game's
yeah
fun. You kicked my ass, I think.
yeah. Well, apparently I was playing like the easier side or something.
Yeah, but it's not that. I think it's like 55-45. I think the runner is like slightly, but it's not like landslide easier. Like you
Mhm.
still probably did pretty well. I also hadn't played the game in like a year or two, so I think we were both on pretty even playing fields. But I don't know. I think I don't know. You probably played well. Maybe I got a little unlucky. I would
Mhm.
play it again though. It's a very cool concept for a game, and I like the theme of it, like the cyberpunky like theme is very cool.
I mean, there's so many games, man. There are so many games that you can play. It's like this cat that I found.
Yeah, that one's Buddy.
Yeah, this is Buddy.
Hi, Buddy.
This is
Is Kimbo there too?
nah. Kimbo would not do this.
Would not want to hang out.
No, he doesn't. No, he would not want to hate. Kimbo just loves treats, man. Kimbo's just like a treats junkie.
Kimbo's
He would
bigger,
just like
right? He's like
no. Well,
fluffier.
Kimbo looks bigger,
He's
but
fluffier.
he's fluffier. But Buddy is like legitimately twice the size of Kimbo. Like if you pick them both
Oh,
up, you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
oh, Buddy. So we talked about Among Us. Talked about Valorant. Talked about roguelike games. Talked about open world games, MMOs. Talked about lanes a little bit with League. Talked a little bit about cardboard games. How do you feel about physical versus digital games? Are you as much of a fan of playing like on a board or with cards, or do you much prefer to play digitally?
Depends on the game. It
Okay.
depends. It 100% depends on the game. There are a game like Red Dragon Inn. needs to be played in person. Like,
Agreed.
like it's on tabletop, it's fine. I mean, like
It's way better in person. Way better in
yeah.
person. Agree.
I'm curious what Clank would be like in person. I mean, that's like a little.
Yeah.
Like,
It was meant to be played in person.
Yeah.
Most of those tabletop games, if not all of them, are probably meant to be played in person. I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I think there are certain games that are better to be played on tabletop.
Like you like Catan on tabletop.
Like Catan, yeah.
Okay.
I could even see something like poker being better on tabletop, where you can just press the button. I mean, that's a little bit different. Where
poker,
it's like
you don't get to see the person, so like you can't always tell if they're bluffing and not. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you had your camera on, that'd be kind of close. I mean, I would only say the better thing about like playing on tabletop would be like you don't have to shuffle the cards each time. Like they'll just do that for you. So, but like,
yes,
that's probably. I mean, the better way is just to have a dealer.
Yeah, but
Either
assuming all things equal, like it was equal opportunity to play on tabletop or physical, did you prefer to play? Do you prefer the gameplay experience overall of playing online versus playing in person?
Oh, definitely in person. Definitely in person.
Okay.
Tabletop is just convenient, I guess, in a way. But yeah, it's I would say almost always better. I mean, just I mean, that's more about just like being with people, like physically in person, rather than being with them virtually. Because like, there's plenty of problems that arise when you're doing digitally. Like, can you hear me? Like, are you still there? Like,
yes. Yes.
Communication is definitely more difficult, like virtually.
Yeah, I always enjoy playing things in person if possible. That's usually my preferred method.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with you. I like the convenience of the online. It just allows us to connect, especially during a time when it's hard to connect with people in real life. It makes it a lot easier. But yeah, the social aspect of playing in person is a big part of certain games for me, and it's a big reason why I don't play Magic right now. Like I tried to grind for maybe a month or two after COVID started, and it just wasn't a pleasant experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically just stopped playing the game entirely. And will I play after COVID? Maybe, maybe not. I haven't really decided yet, but I know for now that that's not something I want to be doing.
Yeah.
So I'm not investing all the time into it. I don't think I get enough out of it. It's not enjoyable without the social aspect to it. When you're playing a game, do you listen? When you're playing like a single player game, do you listen to music?
Not really.
Really?
I usually don't even have the music on, like in game.
So you just what about the sound effects?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the game. Like when I was playing Slaythespire, like at the end, like just like on easy mode, like I would have something on, and I would have the game music off and my music on. But like if it's a game like COD, like I'll turn the music off and just listen to the sound effects.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. But like Slay the Spire, like you won't listen to your own music. You'll
No, I
listen to the
will.
game
No,
music?
with that I will. The game music I've kind of heard too many times.
Exactly. Like you can't listen to 1,700 hours of the same game music on loop.
Yeah. But on that note, I'm gonna get off this stream. But I would definitely be down to do this again.
Thanks, buddy.
New topics. But yeah. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Thank you, Switch, for just tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining on the call today.
Yeah. Talk to you later, man.
All right, Dev.
Peace. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you later, buddy. Bye. All right, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who was able to tune in. This was an awesome stream and definitely something we'd like to try to do again in the future. If this is the first time you come, if you are here and you enjoyed the content, please consider giving us a follow. All right. Peace.